Assume that school sucks. Like, a lot of people say school sucks, but let's take it seriously and see what it implies. And I don't mean like it sucks a little bit, it's annoying. I mean, the whole fucking design is a bad idea. It's misdesigned. So, it's not just bad in some ways, like, it's not fun, but it helps you learn. Like, suppose, hypothetically, that schools are bad at helping you learn. Suppose that they're just bad in like all the ways. And that is why so many people have such bad experiences at school. So suppose the teachers are bad, the curriculums are bad, the textbooks are bad, the schedules are bad, and the social stuff. Suppose that if you don't fit in socially, that isn't something bad about you, that's the system is bad. It's a bad thing to ask of people to try to fit into that social scene. Just imagine that. These are all individually things that a lot of people have flirted with, considered. Some people believe them. Um, and people have complained about it endlessly, these kinds of things. It doesn't work for them. They know it's not working for them. And even the people where it seems like it's working for them, a lot of them are just kind of faking it and they know it doesn't quite work for them, but they try to fit in anyways and like pretend everything's okay. And like a lot of them are sort of sad on the inside or conflicted on the inside, and then on the outside they pretend everything's fine because they don't feel like they have any choice. Which is another thing about school is the lack of alternative choices. Like, it's so one size fits all, and how well is that going to work? But the hypothetical I want you to consider is not that school would work well for 40% of people and we just need more alternatives. Let's suppose that school works well for more like 5% of people. Like, it really does not work well for almost anyone. What does that mean? It means if you fail your classes, it doesn't mean you're dumb. It's not your fault. If you don't learn much at school, it doesn't mean you're incapable of learning. It's just that school is bad at teaching. If you don't make friends, it doesn't mean that you are or have to be a social outcast who can't make friends. It's just you're not good at making friends in that particular situation, which is a harsh and hard situation. So you don't have to feel bad about yourself. You don't have to feel like a failure. It also means that if you seem like you're successful at school, if you graduate, everything seems okay, that does not mean you actually got an education. Like, most people come out of school and they're not really educated and they're still dumb. Because, like, you're born dumb. You don't know much when you're born. And then school doesn't fix it and your parents don't fix it and you don't go to the library and fix it yourself. That's pretty common, right? So, most people coming out of school, even if they pass all their classes, even if they get straight A's, they don't know much. So they're not that ahead of you if you're one of the failures, if you're one of the misfits. You had trouble in your classes and then other people passed their classes, but they don't actually know much either. They're also confused. They're not really educated. They just managed to play by the rules a bit better, like please their teachers and pander, and they were a bit more willing to be obedient and do what the teacher wants, even if they didn't learn much. Like, a lot of what the kids do to pass classes isn't learning, it's teacher pleasing. They do a bunch of work to make the teacher like them better and make it seem like they're trying and so on. And that's different than learning. So as far as like actual capabilities of where you could go in life, you're not really behind if you don't do well in school. Now, there are some other factors because there's social networking, especially at colleges like Harvard. If you get to go to Harvard, you get to make friends with all the people who are going to be like CEOs, and then you can get hired at like a good company because of cronyism, because of giving favors to friends instead of doing it based on merit. Like, that's definitely a thing. Like, there is a whole hierarchy and system of these people who do favors for each other, and it's not fair. And so even if they're not better than you, they might be more tuned into that system and have an advantage. But there are alternatives to that in the world. Like, that system doesn't rule the whole country. It's not like everything. Like, it's not nearly as bad as high school, where it's hard to find alternatives to high school. Like, that society's not that well set up for you to like learn on your own. Like, you can use the internet and like the library and try to figure it out, but it's not really designed for that. But then when you get to like the elite Harvard people giving each other top jobs, there are plenty of other fucking companies that aren't run by their friends where you can actually get a job based on merit. And you can start your own business. Like, there are actually a lot of options there. It's not like everything is controlled by that social hierarchy and social networking stuff. So I'm watching this documentary about incels involuntarily involuntary celibates. People who have trouble getting a girlfriend. The documentary is called TFW No GF, meaning that feel when no girlfriend. And so one of the common themes is that they are like school dropouts or they cut a lot of classes, like school didn't get along with them. So then they feel like they have no job prospects, they have no education, no training, no skills, they can't really do anything in life. And the thing I wanted to say to them while I was watching the video is there are things wrong with mainstream society, and like it's okay if you get along with it somewhat. Like I think if someone fits in 100%, there's something wrong. But if they fit in a decent amount, like that's okay. But if you don't fit in that well, that's also okay. Like it's fine either way. And then there are things you can do in life that are important. And like failing school doesn't mean you can't do them anything important. Like school sucks. It's actually bad. You shouldn't judge yourself by how you did in school. So, in particular, there is a shortage of people using their brains to think rationally. Like, that is just a major societal problem. There's a lot of pretty brain dead stuff people do and say, and there is a shortage of anyone who's actually really caring about ideas and trying to understand the world, like, scientists or philosophers. There's like government funded science, but like a lot of them are people who go through the motions and they got their degree and they learn to obey their teachers and they learn to fill out grant forms and they're not really like creative thinkers like you would want in a scientist. So there's plenty of room for like good scientists who actually accomplish much, because most scientists don't accomplish very much. Anyways, so there's like a shortage there. Like the mainstream does not fucking get everything done. It doesn't work for all the things. There's opportunities where like someone with a bit of an outsider perspective could be really useful. So, and I think a lot of people in that kind of position where they're like lonely and isolated and they can't get a girlfriend and so on, and they didn't do well in school and they don't have a good job and so on, I think a lot of them, they could use their brain. Everyone has a brain. Your brain's fine. The fact that you didn't do well in school does not mean your brain sucks. And I think a lot of them feel like they didn't do well in school, like that kind of path isn't open to them, like they're not a smart person, like they have to leave that to someone else to do the thinking. And I think that's completely false, and that they could do self-education instead of just being like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, start reading books, start learning things. You can find something that you like that's interesting, that you're like, this makes sense to me. Like, more sense than my fucking teachers ever made. Like, you can find things that actually make sense, unlike all that shit they taught in school. And you can get into it, and you can do something that actually matters. That's what I wanted to say. And I think that's a relevant message for quite a few people. Also, the people in the incel documentary mostly seem like they kind of want to fit in and they're sad about not fitting in socially. And I wanted to say to them, like, you don't have to fit in socially. It's an option. It's something you can pursue in life. But you don't have to. There's other things you can do. There are other options, like being intelligent. You can do that kind of thing. And there are other options besides that too. So if the social thing's not working well for you, you don't have to focus your life around wishing you had it. It's not as great as people pretend it is. Like, people lie a lot about how happy they are. Like, oh, I'm so happy, they write on Facebook. My life is so great. My relationships are so great. No, they're not. Like, it's an okay option. Like, I'm not trying to attack it. Like, it has flaws. I've criticized it before, but the point is just that, like, there are other things you can do in life. You don't have to spend the time, like, wishing you have what the jocks have. If it's not working for you, try something else.